We give you some summer league observations on all of the other players outside of Brandon Miller, and the details of LaMelo's contract extension are out. We discuss all of it today on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Whoa, and if you can check us out on YouTube, we got a new light. That's the teal light instead of the purple. Go check us out on YouTube right now. Locked On Hornets, very easy to find. It is a different background setup for one Doug Branson, whose substack is everyhornetsboxscore.com. Now, you're making a face like maybe I shouldn't be as wild as I am, but Doug, it's usually purple, and this is a different setup at least. If I haven't noticed it, as someone who does a podcast with you every weekday, then fine. I sometimes will not notice things that are right in front of my face, but this seems to be very different.
Well, there are a couple of things going on. Yes, I did change the color of my overhead light to go to teal because I'm wearing a purple shirt. You are also wearing a purple shirt. We are purple shirt brothers. We are shirt bros. Hey, shirt brother.
We're purple shirt guys. Just a couple of purple shirt guys. That's fine,
yeah.
Right? Every Hornets fan loves a purple shirt guy.
So last time I wore this shirt on the show with the purple background, I noticed that I kind of looked like one of those weather people who accidentally wear green and they look like a floating head doing the weather. So I was blending into the background, so I changed that. But I'm a little disappointed that you didn't also notice my haircut. I got my haircut shorter, and you notice the light, but you don't notice my hair. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. I know we've been married as a show couple for a long time, but I thought you would notice my hair first.
No, I do now. I definitely do.
Nope,
Yes,
you're in the doghouse.
It's shoulder length, and it is no longer going to your chest anymore, and so now you have long hair, yet not quite as long.
Well, I felt like I'm always wary of changing my appearance when the Hornets are playing because I feel like people will think I'm jinxing the Hornets, somehow by doing that. And people weirdly, the commenters, they love to comment on my appearance, so I'm wary of that. But with the Hornets being such a disaster in Summer League, even though they've got 2 games left, I feel like I was safe and going ahead and getting it cut.
All right, I'm Walker Mail, by the way. You can check me out every weekday from, hey, how are you doing? WFNZ every weekday, 12 to 3 p.m. Speaking of being in the doghouse, last thing, just wanted to throw a warning out there that we are watching at like a 9-week-old puppy, very young puppy for one of our friends who is out of town.
Perfect.
And he's a vocal one, and so you're going to hear him bark. In fact,
Talks
he was doing
defense.
it during the... Well... I mean, I don't know what he's going to do out there. I heard a crash. I don't know if the couch is going to be chewed up. I couldn't put him in the crate because he would go ballistic in the crate
got that
right
Nick
now.
Smith Jr. energy.
Oh, yeah, just all over the place. Now, hopefully, this is the second night watching. The second night of Nick Smith Jr. was a lot better, but still a lot of long twos. I'm hoping we don't see a lot of long twos from this puppy, so I really don't want to see that. All right, let's talk a little more about some summer
No one
league
wants to see a long two from a puppy. It's a tough cleanup.
No, it's really tough. Let's go to some other observations. Do you want to start with Nick Smith Jr. here? Because we tried to consolidate every Brandon Miller take into one episode and then save some content as we were going on throughout the week. We do have a game tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers. But if you want to start with the second pick in this past NBA draft, what have you made of Nick Smith Jr.? Or if you just want to take us another direction, what was another main takeaway outside of Brandon Miller and this past weekend of games?
Yeah, generally I've been okay with Nick Smith Jr. I think the play has been up and down. Sometimes it feels like he's playing a little bit too fast. Sometimes he slows it down, is a little bit more methodical with his offensive game. Defensively, you can see the makings of someone who can be a good defensive player moving forward, but that's going to be something that grows over time. But he's got the motor, he's got the intensity, he's got the, just that thing that you go, okay, yeah, if this guy really pays attention, then he can be a good defensive player, and he has enough, I think, size, to keep guys away from the basket. And then just in terms of shot making, that's going to be the thing that I think gets him on the floor or keeps him off the floor early on. And you saw him in this last game against the Lakers knock down a couple of deep threes. That's what I was waiting on, honestly. I've seen him make twos. He stopped taking the long twos. Again, I think he listens to the show. Maybe I'm just speculating. Or maybe the coaching staff was seeing some of the same things I was. It was like, hey, Nick Smith, we don't do that. We don't step right inside the line.
Maybe he just paid attention to 1 minute of Twitter where an influx of tweets asking him to stop. Either one of those things could have happened.
Yeah, all of the above maybe, but he stopped. He was taking 3-point shots. He knocked a few down. He missed a lot as well. So, it's just going to be a process for him. But I've been okay with Nick Smith Jr.
I have too. Even a little bit of playmaking in a pick and roll situation, but the 3-ball falling in this game against the Lakers, that really helped. Now, he didn't make one single 2-point field goal. He only took 3. He took 7 threes in this game against the Lakers. But against the Spurs, or at least in the second game, I should say, the second game, I thought he played a lot better. He didn't hit many field goals against the Spurs. He was 2 of 10 in that one, missed all 4 of his 3-point attempts. So really the second game in the California Classic, that's the best one from the second pick in this past NBA draft. I know you love Amari Bailey. Maybe we can split the next 2 picks up in the next segments. If you want to go to Amari Bailey, I can shed all sorts of love on James Nnaji because we're not going to have much more time to do it here. It does look like he's going back and playing with Barcelona for one more season. But let's go with Amari Bailey, Doug. I know you like him a lot.
Yeah. I mean, let's get to that James Nnaji thing because I don't think it's a sure bet that he's going to Barcelona, but there are indications that he may be heading back. But on Amari Bailey, just really quickly, he was 3 of 8 in this game against the Lakers, shot 3 free throw attempts, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. And the steals are what I want to zero in on here because he had one that I wrote in Every Hornets box score. He looked like Doc Ock from the Spider-Man comics. Like his arms just suddenly extend. Like he's got good, like, just general defensive posture, arms out sometimes. But sometimes, like, the arm just comes out of nowhere and just nabs the ball. It jumps in the passing lane, gets out into transition. That's super exciting for me because the Hornets need some more of that, from the guard position. They need more defensive awareness. And he doesn't gamble a ton either. He did, I think, either in this Lakers game or Spurs game, he did have one particular gamble that I was like, ooh, that looked very LaMelo-ian, that led to a layup for the opposing team. But I think generally he's pretty disciplined on the defensive end of the floor. And I think right now that's his biggest upside because he stays with plays, and so he can miss shots, follow up his shot, and knock down. He's got the athleticism around the rim, to juke and jive and get layups that maybe other players can't. But generally, his shot looks wonky, and I don't think he's going to be that big of a shot maker early on. So defense, though, big upside.
Hard not to like what you've seen from Amari Bailey a lot with him being the last pick for the Charlotte Hornets. And the thing I noticed, just my number one takeaway from him, it's the free throws. The guy's attacking a lot.
Yeah.
How about 7 free throws in the first game? Only made 2, but then bounced back, made all 5 of his free throw attempts in the second game. You see what he did against the Spurs. I did have that in front of me. I know that he took he took 3 free throws against the Lakers. I think just 1 or 2 against San Antonio. That was the weakest point. But you are talking about not a ton of minutes, right? This isn't. This is only 16 minutes in the game against the Lakers.
Which I think needs to change, by the way. We've got 2 games left. I've seen enough of Bryce McGowan's. He's not starting anymore, maybe because he was the secret source for the True Hoop podcast, complaining about the coaching staff. I don't know. That's pure speculation, but he's not starting anymore. I've seen enough of Bryce McGowan's. He's out there taking 15 shots. We don't need to see him take 15 shots. His spot is secure. With this roster, he's got the contract. So let's see, more Trey Scott, more Amari Bailey. I'm good with Bryce McGowan's.
All right, and maybe more James Nnaji with a couple games left in Summer League, considering they probably aren't going to win any Summer League championship. Let's get to that in just a moment. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
One more draft pick to talk about. James Nnaji. Is he going to stick around with the Charlotte Hornets, or is he going to move on and play with Barcelona just for one more year, then maybe come back afterwards? We'll discuss that in just a moment, but not before Ibotta. This episode is brought to you by Ibotta. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and get your cash back. It is that easy. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or even gift cards. You can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, even more than that. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKED. That's Ibotta, Ibotta. Ibotta in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKED, LOCKED. More Locked On Hornets coming up next.
Is Locked On Hornets.
But I have seen him go all the way up to number 10. That was, is there a warning? Do we need to get out of here?
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if you heard, but my watch went off, and I was trying to silence it, and then I accidentally hit ping the phone, and then the phone pinged, and now here we are. I'm doing my best, man.
It seems like you're doing your very worst.
Well, sometimes
it seems like I'm actively fighting you today to move.
Sometimes my best is my worst.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
There's a lot going on. I do want to talk about Nnaji. I want to get to the LaMelo Ball contract details. Yes, you know about the max extension, but there are a couple of details worth noting in that. We'll get to it in a moment. But, Doug, people were angry with us on YouTube not discussing the Kai Jones thrunk, the alley thrunk
was a
on
thrunk.
Victor Wembanyama. It was a thrunk. That's the kind of stuff that makes you keep on holding on to hope with Kai Jones in the future.
Did he save his season with a thrunk? Did he save his season?
Yeah. How about the thrunk, and then also the time where the next game Kai Jones is trying to pick up the basketball. It goes out to the perimeter. It's this hot mess. And then, all right, he'll just shoot it late in the shot clock, and Drano, nothing but net three-pointer from the 7-foot athletic freak. Yeah, it's that kind of stuff that makes you not want to give up on Kai.
Yeah, a couple of things. You know my feelings on thrunks. Well documented on this podcast. I think they're good for 2 points, and that's about it. But I've now got to caveat this, because if you get a thrunk on Victor Wembanyama, I think it's got to count for a little something more, right? I mean, just more than two, not technically more than 2 points, but it's got to have a little bit more, weight with the fan base. When you see Kai Jones get up that high, thrunk on Victor Wembanyama, not be afraid of the moment, be the highlight from, Victor Wembanyama's debut. The highlight is going to be that Kai Jones dunk. That's pretty impressive. Now, Victor Wembanyama would then follow up that game with some pretty impressive play himself, whereas Kai Jones would follow it up by going 2 of 3 for 5 points and 5 personal fouls. So there's where you get the sort of reality meeting the highlight moment, but you got to give Kai a little something for going up on climbing the ladder of Victor Wembanyama and thrunking it all over him.
That's awesome. I had my computer on mute the whole time because one of the dogs opened up the door. I didn't realize, and now you can hear the puppy barking. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to toss it to you. You talk to James Nnaji. I'll put my computer on mute, close the door, and try to work out the situation. Doug, Nnaji thoughts, go.
Yeah, and I'll say I would turn the camera only on me, but I'm interested to see how this all develops. Yes, the dogs have turned into the Raptors from Jurassic Park. They are learning how to open doors. We get the thumbs up sign from Walker Mail, who has successfully evacuated the dog from the room. And I'm just now getting to James Nnaji, who is...
You're just now?
Yeah, I had to narrate some of that because it was so...
Got it.
It was so interesting to me. You can go back and listen to what I said later. But James Nnaji has, I think, opened a few eyes among the fan base, because I don't think that a lot of people knew a ton about James Nnaji. And then the Hornets, all of a sudden, they trade up for this guy who's been playing in EuroLeague, been playing for Barcelona, doesn't play the first game of Summer League because they had to, for some reason, had to get FIBA clearance or whatever. To get this James Nnaji guy to play. It's ridiculous. It's just like, no, you're drafted at the NBA now. Now you play for the NBA. Come on. But the question is, has he opened the coaching staff's eyes enough to retain his services, which would probably cost the franchise money in order to get him out of that Barcelona contract, to bring him over to play for the Swarm? Because he's not going to play for the big boy team unless there are multiple injuries at the center position. And according to this article that I found from Eurohoops.net, he was interviewed by someone from Mundo Deportivo. And James Nnaji said essentially that he expects to go back to Barcelona for one more year. That unless something changes within the Summer League period, that he's most likely heading back to Barcelona. Now, I know you're a big James Nnaji fan, Walker. Does this make you very sad?
It does a little bit, to be honest with you. And yes, I liked what I saw pre-draft, and of course in summer league, I've only seen stuff to make me fall in love more so with what James Nnaji can bring defensively. Yeah, Doug, I don't think there's any problem. I don't think there's any lack of discipline with him right now. Like when we talk about him being this raw project of an NBA prospect, that's solely on the offensive end, which it is 100% clear he's raw on that end of the floor. He's setting screens, he's diving, and offensive crashing, and that's about it. Defensively, he covers so much ground. There were times where he was guarding two guys where he has to leave the big man. There's somebody driving baseline, and he has to take care of Ball on the baseline, and he has to take care of a big guy in the post, and he makes a bad decision happen because he's doing both responsibilities extremely well. Yeah. He blocked Colin Castleton a couple times. We saw him play straight up with Wemby, couldn't get by him, but it was a great pass. I just think defensively, I think right now, Doug, defensively, he's better than Nick Richards, even with some of the rim protection numbers. Now, I don't know if that means that he should play over Nick Richards, because offensively, I think you have better stuff with Nick right now. But I do think defensively, especially out there on the perimeter, I think right now he's better. And you've seen him improve, right? Like from game to game in Summer League, you've seen him come over, not be allowed to play in game 1 because of FIBA regulations. Game 2, he shows you a flash or two. Game 3, game 4, boom. This is somebody that's already helping out in a lot of ways.
So, just on a possession basis, he's probably better defensively than Nick Richards. But fitness-wise, he's got to work some stuff out. He's looking winded out there. Sure. Rod Boone reported on it as well. That is something that I've noticed that ever since he started playing. Long stretches. Look, Euro basketball is not, in terms of how much guys run and the fitness level required to play NBA basketball, it's just a universe away from EuroLeague basketball. The speed of the game just ramps up tremendously. Even college guys have a tough time adjusting to it sometimes. So, he's got to figure that out. But also, as Nnaji even notes in this interview, he says they want to look at more options. The Charlotte Hornets have not told me that I'm the first, but anything can happen. As I've said, there are other issues like the team's cap space, and they have a full roster. They want to wait for a better situation. That's why they talked to me for about a year. So, I think that's the situation too, right? If this were a Hornets team that had a ton of roster spots, that didn't just draft 4 guys in the draft and have drafted multiple players for a couple of years now, I think it would be a situation where you go easy, play Nnaji in the G League. But I think draft and stash makes more sense for Nnaji right now until the roster opens up a little bit.
Yeah, and it probably is better for Nnaji to go back. And even with the Nick Richards stuff, what I've seen in Summer League against players that aren't rotation players, I've seen better stuff right now. Like I think he's better right now, but also you got to get past Kai Jones too. And I saw Nada put this out there. Like, yeah, this is the best news for Kai Jones that Nnaji is going back to Barcelona, because that is not a big gap. It's what we talked about. You draft some raw prospect in Kai, which everybody knew that, right? Everybody knew. You just had to figure out what he was going to be. And then Nnaji, who was considered something raw, unfinished offensively for sure. Defensively, I think now you've seen a lot of people really like what he does on that end, but the gap is not big there. And so with Kai Jones, that's the guy that benefits from this quite a bit, in my opinion, as far as him making rotation.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, Najee's exciting for the future, but if they're serious about making the playoffs next season, then I think you just roll with your 2 bigs. And then if something happens to one of those bigs, then you go find, somebody that's a cheaper option, that's a veteran that knows what they're doing. Like if you're serious about making the playoffs, you don't depend on James Nnaji for big minutes if one of these guys gets hurt. I mean, I think that's bottom line.
Totally fair. All right, let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Let's talk LaMelo Ball contract details. Saw some of those come out over the last couple of days. We'll get to that in the last segment. There's the puppy barking again on Locked On Hornets.
So, Walker, we know that LaMelo is locked up into a max contract. Could be worth $260 million if he reaches, all NBA, MVP material. I don't know if you saw the video of him signing the contract. It was like a lot of videos that are produced in-house by not just the Charlotte Hornets, but by really any NBA team. I think any interactions between players and management end up being like weirdly awkward. Like you had the handshake, you had Mitch Kupchak being like, "Oh, LaMelo, you gonna make all MVP? Or are you gonna make MVP? You gonna make all NBA?" And Melo's like, "Yeah, sure, I guess, Dad. Whatever. Let me just give me the contract, give me the money." So anyway, we got some details from Michael Scotto on Twitter. LaMelo Ball's 5-year designated rookie max extension, worth up to $260 million, includes no player option and has a 15% trade kicker.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean, Walker?
Well, it means that it's going to be harder and there's less incentive to trade LaMelo Ball and these other teams. It'll be most likely the fact that unless he demands a trade, that it's going to be just less likely that he's going to go to another team. Now, look, this is the thing, right? Ultimately, if LaMelo decides that he wants out so badly, then it's going to happen. That's just the way that we've seen stars operate. If they want out, then he's going to find himself to another franchise, whatever he wants to play for. If he wants to try to do the Dame Lillard thing and then say, I only want to go to this organization, most people would point out LA, then maybe that could happen. But yes, it is the fact that you do have LaMelo pretty locked in here for a while. And so that'll be great for Charlotte Hornets fans that want LaMelo, their star, to be with this organization.
Yeah, for sure. The no player option means that if we get late into this process, it will be up to the team whether they want to, move forward as opposed to the player. The player will have more control if they have that player option in the final year. They could walk. And it means you, as a franchise, you get to worry about things later. There's a period of time that you would have to worry about it if they have a player option. That now gets essentially moved 1 year into the future. So that's positive for the franchise. And it's positive for LaMelo in that if the Hornets do trade him, he gets a 15% bump in pay. That's always nice. That, to me, that's actually bad for the Hornets because I think it would suppress the amount that you would get back in a trade potentially. If a team knows that they're going to have to take that 15% trade kicker, it means what's coming back to the franchise is potentially less than if you had a clean sheet going to the other team. So that's bad, but at the same time, it could also lock up the trade market for LaMelo Ball in the future. A lot of ifs, a lot of things that have to happen, a lot of assumptions to make. But I think you can take both of these things and go, hey, it makes it more difficult to trade LaMelo or for LaMelo not to ask. I mean, he could ask for a trade whenever he wanted to, but the no player option thing means that the franchise will have more control over the situation.
Well, and look, LaMelo, I don't have any problem with him being worth his contract. The Hornets didn't either. They got this thing done, no questions asked, and it's going to be worth the most that it possibly could if he makes an All-NBA team, right? But the trade kicker, it's if he doesn't perform up to expectations, which no one really expects, up to expectations, right? But if that doesn't happen, then yeah, you are working from a disadvantageous spot, trying to send him out to a different franchise and then trying to bring somebody else or try whatever your return is. You're right. So if you are a LaMelo fan, then it does not lock him in again with the whole if he decides to demand a trade. But yeah, it's not great for the Hornets. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But I will say this. If he wanted the trade kicker and he's pounding the table for the trade kicker, that's not anything that the Hornets need to play hardball with. They just, okay, fine, right? Like if I get traded, then I get a boost in salary. The Hornets like, okay, we don't plan on trading.
Well, and maybe
you.
they exchanged it for the player option. So it's like, look, we no player option, and you get the 15% trade kicker. And in that, I think the Hornets will take that. No, again, franchises want, especially in this era where players, as we're seeing with Damian Lillard, seem to have all of the cards in their hand. Any little bit of leverage that a team can have in those situations, they're going to try to wrestle away, and so you get the no player option here. But again, I think a lot of this, so many things have to happen for this to turn out poorly. That I think it's it is strange to look at these things and go, oh, well, the Hornets won this or LaMelo won this. Look, if LaMelo plays, it doesn't, because if LaMelo plays up to all NBA or MVP level, the 15% trade kicker doesn't mean anything. If he wants to go somewhere else, a team like Miami or LA or New York is going to be like, that's fine, 15%, just bring him. He's all NBA.
Right. Exactly. All right, that'll do it for Locked On
Hornets.
Wait.
Before we go, really quickly, because I got it on the graphic. Portland, they play Portland tonight. No Scoot Henderson.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot to get to this. Yes.
No Scoot
we talked
Henderson.
about Portland, I guess, a little while ago, but you're right. No Scoot Henderson. This was dicey because we did think no Scoot. We know that Scoot was going to miss the second game of their summer league session. This one was still up in the air, but he's not been shut down, right? Has he been shut down for the rest of summer league? Okay,
he is not. He is not. He's just declared out for this game, so it looks like Portland's holding out hope that they'll. Because I think Portland, like San Antonio, wanted to see 2 games out of Victor. I think these teams don't want these star players to play the entire summer league, but they like 2 looks at them. So I think maybe they're holding out hope. If I were Portland, I'd say shut it down. You don't take a chance. If there's any chance of him re-injuring that shoulder, I think it would be silly to play him. But I think this is bad for Brandon Miller because we saw Brandon Miller rise to the challenge of that Victor Wembanyama spotlight. So I think, this Brandon Miller's not going to have quite as much motivation to come out here and show everything he's got against Scoot Henderson. I don't think that necessarily means he's going to play poorly. And boy, does he, he needs a game. I think, these last 2 games, if they plan to play Brandon Miller, I think he just needs one of these summer league games to be eye-popping just for his own confidence. I don't think fans would enjoy seeing it. I don't think they need to see it. Summer league ultimately doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but I think just for his confidence, it would be nice if he could go out and drop, 25 on efficient shooting and lots of 3-pointers.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a takeover game because right now what's happening is it's roster construction. It's the lack of a true point guard. He's going to be fine. The shot's not falling. And that's the real reason for the zero, the non-big numbers. And then once the shot falls, it'll come around. And all of that's valid, by the way. It's the coaching. We had a whole episode dedicated to how bad the coaching has been, how bad the roster construction's been. But that has been the analysis surrounding Brandon, right? The good stuff. We've seen the defensive flashes. We've seen the playmaking. We've seen some flashes of scoring and getting to the rim, but the percentages just aren't good. It doesn't matter how you want to slice it. Rim percentage, not good. 3-point percentage, not good. Overall field goal percentage, not good. Now, context matters here big time because a lot of that is contributing to him not performing at the highest level that you did see with some of these other players that have been in the summer league session. But you would like the takeover game saying, screw all that context. I'm going to be a beast because I'm the number 2 overall pick. And this is who I am. You would like that to show itself before we get out of summer league. Doesn't mean it's an indictment on his future if he doesn't give you that, but it would still be nice to see it for Brandon and for the Hornets fan base sake.
Well, totally. And not all of that is up to Brandon, right? This needs to be, I think he needs one game where the coaching staff says, all right, we're going to run most of this offense through Brandon, because there have been possessions in the last game where he was sort of like begging the guard, whether it was Book Knight or Nick Smith Jr. or whoever, to give him the basketball and let him initiate the offense, and they wouldn't do it. And so I think there has to be one game where everybody gets on the same page about all right, we're going to see what Brandon can do initiating the offense here. Because the thing is, we want to see that because we want to see that he has that desire for later on in his career. Because in his rookie season, we're not going to get to see that many opportunities for him to initiate the offense. It's just not going to happen. But you'd like to see it in this period just because you go, okay, yes, he has that in him. He wants that. He's going to work towards that. Year 2, year 3, year 4. So yeah, I want to see that as well. Disappointing that we won't get to see Scoot versus Brandon Miller because I think it would have been exciting. But Portland had a lot of draft picks that I really, really like. So this will be a fun game, and I'll be covering it on Every Hornets Boxscore. Walker will be talking about it on WFNZ, and we're going to be back here tomorrow to go over it all with puppies, maybe without puppies. I don't know. You'll just have to come back and see.
Yeah, I think there will be a puppy. I think there will be somebody in the house taking care of the puppy so it's not barking. At least we really hope so.
Well, we saw a puppy open a door. I just want to see what the puppies are going to do next. I expected the puppy to come in with a butler outfit and have a drink for you. Sir, the drink you ordered.
Your morning coffee, sir. Here you go for the podcast. Thank you. Well, it was the beagle that did it. Well, the beagle is just flying all over the place, right?
Yeah.
The puppy is not big enough to do it, but the beagle, I didn't realize that it wasn't fully latched the door. Boom, he just comes in running like a bull because that's what he kind of is. And so it fits the English accent. Would you like No? You're doing a podcast? Okay, I will be gone now. And that'll do it officially for Locked On Hornets. We'll see if the beagle or the puppy messes things up the next go around. Thanks for making us your first listen. Make your second listen, Game to Game NBA. Every moment, every top performance from across the league. Locked On Game to Game covers every contest from across the league, and you can catch it anywhere you get your podcast. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back to recap the Hornets game in Summer League against the Trailblazers tomorrow.